Okay, so we have a data set, and now we're going to assess relationships between variables that are measured at the categorical level using Google Sheets. Again, we are using a data set that comes from the General Social Survey, and you are familiar with this data set already. These are the variables that we have. Right? So let's say I want to know what variables are related to happiness. Who's happier? Okay, and so I'm going to use this variable called happy, and it's respondents' general happiness. And remember, when we went to the General Social Survey, we looked at what the question asked, and it said, considering everything, would you say that these days you are very happy, pretty happy, or not happy, right? And now I'm going to say, I think, let's see if marital status is related to happiness. Let's say I have a hypothesis that, I don't know, what would you say? Single people are happier than married people? I don't know. Let's test that. Let's see if marital status has an impact on happiness, or are they related or not. All right, so what we would do is, again, we'll go to the data set, and we have, there's the marital status variable, right? And we have the happy variable there, all right? Again, there's thousands of respondents here, so we're not going to count, and it's impossible to do a crosstabs manually. So thankfully, we don't have to do that. I am just going to select the entire data set, right? Clicking on that left top square, and then go to data and use a pivot table. It's going to ask me if I want a new worksheet, and I'm going to say yes. And we are ready. So on the right, we have, again, our control panel, right? This is the pivot table creator. And on the right and on the left, we have our results. So we said that we want to look at happiness. We think that your marital status has an impact on your happiness, right? So the dependent variable here would be our happiness, and the independent would be the marital status, right? We're kind of hypothesizing that your happiness depends on your marital status. So if we are under that setup, right, then we know that our dependent variable is going to be on the rows, and our dependent variable is the variable happiness. So I'm going to go to the rows and add that variable happiness. Now when you click, this variable is there, but let's say I don't want that don't know category for happy. People should know if they're happy or not when asked. So I'm going to just filter all those values there, and you know how to do that. So the way to do that is go to filters. I'm going to add a filter for the variable happy. And we don't want that don't know, so we uncheck there and okay. Good. So now we have the variable happy. We don't have any values in there. So let's bring those values there. Let's bring for values, let's bring the variable happy again. And so far we have the same that you did last week. This is a absolute frequency distribution for the variable happy, right? We know 2,344 respondents answered the question, and out of those, 1,307 said they're pretty happy, and 701 said they're very happy. 336 say they are not too happy. All right. Now, we think that your marital status actually has an impact on your level of happiness. So let's test that hypothesis. Let's bring the variable marital status and put it across the columns. And the way we do that is we go to the columns and add, and let's look for marital. So there's marital. Click on there. And there you go. You have all these categories, right? Now this NA, that people were not asked that question. So I'm going to add a filter for the variable marital and get them out. So add a filter for the variable marital and uncheck those NA. Okay, boom, we have that. Now we have our beautiful contingency table here. We know that out of all of these respondents, the 2,342, 84 of them said they're not too happy and they are divorced, right? This is the cross tab. We also know that 242 of those who are divorced are pretty happy. We also know that 432 of respondents who are married responded that they are very happy. Okay, and this is in general, right? General happiness, not necessarily happiness with their marriage or not. All right, so good. Can we assess if there is a relationship now? Right? Is never married, is the distribution of happiness for never married different than the distribution of happiness for those who are married currently? Well, it's hard to see those differences because there's a lot more respondents that are married than respondents who are never married. So we need relative frequencies. And if we need relative frequencies, we said that if we have the dependent variable in the rows and the independent in the columns, we're going to ask for percent of column. So where do we ask for that? We go to the values. And here in the values, we have the count. And right now it's giving us just the raw count, the absolute frequencies. And you see there we have all those options that we talked about. We can express those as a percent of row or as a percent of the total, but we're going to choose as a percent of column. If we click on that, then we have every cell expressed as a percent of the total in the column. And we wanted that because we want each column right now represents the distribution, relative frequency for the variable happy for each of these marital status categories. So for example, this column here, I'm looking at the first column, divorced. This is the distribution of the variable happiness for those who answered that they are divorced, only for them, right? So we see that for those that are divorced, 21% say they're not too happy, 60% say they are pretty happy, and 19% said they are very happy, right? This is the distribution of happiness for those who are divorced. Now let's compare that to the distribution of happiness for those who are married. Out of those who are married, 6% are not too happy, 50% are pretty happy, and 51%, and 43% are very happy. Now let's compare that to those who are never married. Out of those who are never married, 20% said they were not too happy, 61% said they are pretty happy, and 18% said they are very happy. Now, what does this mean? Well, if we compare those who are divorced, right, the distribution of happiness for those who are divorced to the distribution of happiness of those who are married, right, if we compare this to this column, are they the same or are they different? They are very different. They're very different, right? Those who are married have a higher percentage of respondents that say they're very happy, 43%. When you compare that to those who are divorced, only 19% of them said they are very happy, right? That is more than a 20 percentage point difference. Those who are married, for some reason, are happier than those who are divorced. Now, if we compare those, I mean, you can compare any of the two, but if we compare these other two, right, those who are married to those who are never married, for those who are married, 43% say are very happy. For those who were never married, only 19% said they're very happy. When you compare the two, they are very different, right? More than 20% percentage points difference, right? For the very happy. And for the not too happy, it's a big, it's about 14 percentage points. So we would say that there is a strong relationship between happiness and marital status. Now, interestingly, those who are divorced, their distribution of happiness is about the same as those who were never married, right? They're pretty similar, and they're both very different to those who are married. Anyway, so if we looked at this, then we know that these two variables are related. Now, can we say that marriage causes happiness? Not necessarily, right? We know that they are related, but then we would have to establish that the marriage came before the happiness, and we also would have to establish that there's no other variable creating this relationship, right? In this scenario, we don't know if the marriage caused the happiness, right? It could be that happy people are more likely to be married, and so the happiness came before the marriage, maybe. We don't know. Anyway, let's look at some other variable though. Let's just erase everything to have another example here. What else do you think may cause happiness or may be related to happiness? Anyway, let's go to rows and let's ask for happy again. And I'm going to, I don't like that don't know there, so I'm going to add a filter for happy. And I'm going to uncheck on the don't know category. Okay, boom, ready. Let's ask for the variable happy on the values. Okay, there we have our frequency distribution there. Perfect. Now, we want to look at some other variable that is related to happiness. So let's go to the columns and see which one we should add. Let's say, what else can make you happy? Oh, maybe satisfaction with your financial situation. That should be related with happiness, I would imagine, to a certain degree. But let's see. So if I click there, remember this SatFin asked respondents, there was a question in the survey that asked, how satisfied are you with your financial situation these days? And respondents said, I'm satisfied, or more or less satisfied, or not at all satisfied. You see those categories are here. Again, these don't know and these no apply. They're just creating clutter there. I'm going to get them out. The way to get them out is go to filters and add a filter for that variable. and check the values that you don't want. I don't want the don't know, and I don't want the NA. Okay, good. So right now our contingency table is ready. We know that, okay, we know, so for those that are not at all satisfied, we know that 71%, 71, I'm sorry, this is not percentage, this is actual counts, 71 are very happy. We know that the majority are more or less satisfied, and 736 are satisfied with their financial situation. All right. Now, I'm going to, just for the sake of this, so because we want relative frequencies to assess a relationship, I'm going to ask, and again, to change this to relative frequencies, we will go to values, and then show the values as percent of row, percent of column. We know that we're going to ask for percent of column. Just for the sake of it, let's say I want to know, out of all Americans, what's the most common combination of these questions, right? So I'm going to go to percent of grand total. And now we see that each cell is expressed as a percent of all respondents, right? Now this is a marginal, this is a marginal. If I look inside the table, which one is the most common of all? And it's this one. The majority of respondents are both pretty happy and more or less satisfied with their financial situation, right? 27% of all respondents. That's, you know, anyway, that's not good. People are kind of all right, but not in any extreme. Only 14% of all respondents are very happy and also satisfied with their financial situation. That's almost, you know, 1 in 10. That's not very good. Anyway, we cannot assess the relationship with the two variables, but it's interesting to know which combination is the most common. So I'm going to go to values again, and I'm going to express this as a percent of column. All right, now we can see the distribution of happiness across these different levels of satisfaction. So for those who are satisfied with their financial situation, 44%, actually 45% are very happy. For those who are not satisfied with their financial situation, only 13% are very happy. For those who are not at all satisfied with their financial situation, 31% are not too happy. And for those who are satisfied, only 6% are not too happy. This is a big difference, right? It's about 24 percentage points, and it's even bigger here. So we can say that there is a strong relationship between satisfaction with the financial situation and your overall level of happiness. So I don't know if one causes the other, but they are related. So anyway, that is how you would go about assessing relationships, right? Remember, we placed the dependent variable on the rows and the independent variable across the columns. Then we asked for column percentages, and that allowed us to assess or compare the frequency distribution for the dependent variable across categories of the independent variable. In this case, we looked at the distribution of happiness for those who are not at all satisfied, and we compared it to those who are satisfied. If there is differences across those two, there is a relationship, right? Okay. So let's do one more of this, and I'm going to go quickly. I'm just going to get satfin out of there. I'm going to keep the rest. I'm going to get satfin out of the columns, but I'm going to keep happy. And I'm going to add another column here that's probably not related to happiness. Let's see. Let's look at gender. Okay, good, excellent. So now I brought gender to the columns, and it was already asking, the values are already showing them as a percentage of column, right? So now my table is ready to compare. All right, so if we go here and compare this female column for female, this is showing the distribution for the variable happy only for female respondents. And this one is, the column for male is showing us the distribution of happiness only for male respondents. Now, if there was a relationship between gender and happiness, we would expect that if there was a relationship, we would expect these columns to be different. In this case, let's compare them. 29% of male respondents, 29%, almost 30%, if you round it up, say they're very happy. And here, out of all female respondents, 30% they are very happy, say they're very happy. Out of male respondents, about 15% say they're not too happy. And out of female respondents, about 14% say they're not too happy. When you compare the two columns, or the distributions of happiness across the genders, they look almost exactly the same, right? It's less than 1 percentage point difference. So, I mean, they're not identical, but the differences are so small that we would say if there is a relationship, it's super weak. It's a very weak relationship. There is almost no difference in happiness across genders.